An astronaut's body starts to fail, 250 miles above Earth. No hospitals, no ambulances, only a metal station racing through space at 17,500 miles per hour. And for the first time in 25 years, NASA made the call, and this has never happened before. On January 7th, 2026, NASA Administrator Jared Isaacman stood before cameras, announcing that one of the 4 astronauts aboard Crew 11 had experienced a serious medical condition. Now, here's what makes this striking. The International Space Station has been continuously occupied since November 2000. That's over 25 years of humans living in space. And not once has anyone needed a full medical evacuation. So what could be so serious that NASA would make history, but not serious enough to bring them down immediately? According to NASA's Chief Health and Medical Officer, Dr. James Polk, the condition is serious enough that they can't complete a full diagnosis in space. The best way to complete that workup is on the ground, where we have the full suite of medical testing hardware, Dr. Polk explained during the press conference. Because the astronaut is absolutely stable, this is not an emergent evacuation. Let me paint you the full picture. Crew 11 launched on August 1st, 2025, using SpaceX's Crew Dragon Endeavour, with 4 astronauts beginning a 6-month mission. The crew includes NASA astronauts Zena Cardman and Michael Fink, JAXA astronaut Kimiya Yui, and Roscosmos cosmonaut Oleg Platonov. NASA won't tell us who among them is sick. Patient privacy. Standard protocol. It all began on Friday, January 10th. NASA made the call and quietly opened the evacuation window. Not immediately, but no earlier than 5 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday, January 14th. That's when the clock truly starts. The crew will undock from the International Space Station, slowly drift away from the only home they've known in orbit, and commit to the journey back. Re-entry follows until early Thursday morning, January 15th. The mission ends where it began, with a controlled splashdown in the waters off California. Now let me tell you why this decision makes perfect sense, and then you will understand what space actually does to the human body. Space doesn't just look dangerous, it fundamentally rewrites your biology. Astronauts lose between 1 and 2% of their bone mass every single month in orbit. Your bones literally dissolve in microgravity. But it gets worse. Without gravity pulling fluids down, everything shifts upward. Blood, cerebrospinal fluid, all of it pools in your head and chest. This causes what astronauts call puffy face, bird legs syndrome. It also affects vision, sometimes permanently. Your immune system weakens. Your muscles atrophy despite hours of daily exercise. Your heart, which no longer has to pump against gravity, actually shrinks. And here's the terrifying part. A minor infection you would shrug off on Earth can become life-threatening in space, where the immune system is compromised and medical equipment is limited. Back in 2019, an astronaut developed a blood clot in their neck vein while on the ISS. They were diagnosed remotely and treated with what was available on board until a shipment of blood thinners could be sent up on a resupply mission. But this time, whatever's happening with this Crew 11 member, NASA isn't willing to wait and see. So how do astronauts even prepare for medical emergencies when they're 250 miles from the nearest hospital? NASA doesn't send anyone to space without turning them into an emergency response team first. Every astronaut undergoes extensive medical training long before they ever leave Earth. We're talking fire simulations, toxic leak scenarios, rapid depressurization drills, and medical emergencies. They train for everything. Here's what's wild. Astronauts practice self-surgery simulations. Yeah, you heard that right. They learn how to potentially operate on themselves or their crewmates if absolutely necessary. They're trained to perform CPR in microgravity, which is way harder than it sounds. On Earth, you push down on someone's chest. In space, you need to brace yourself against a wall, or you'll just push yourself away from the patient. The ISS always has crew members trained as crew medical officers. They're not doctors, but they know enough to handle basic medical issues and follow instructions from Mission Control, which has actual physicians on duty 24/7. NASA even uses underwater facilities like Neutral Buoyancy Laboratory to simulate weightlessness. Astronauts spend hours submerged, learning how to move, work, and respond to emergencies when up and down stop meaning anything. But even with all this training, all this preparation, sometimes Earth is the only option. Which raises the question on what medical equipment does the ISS actually have? The International Space Station is basically a flying emergency room wrapped in a tin can traveling at 5 miles per second. The station is equipped with advanced medical kits that includes IVs, medications, diagnostic equipment, and surgical tools. There are fire suppression systems throughout every module, oxygen masks, emergency breathing apparatus, and a lot more other things. Here's something most people don't know. The ISS has airlock insulation zones. If there's a toxic leak or contamination in one module, they can seal it off in seconds, preserving the rest of the station. And crucially, there's always at least one escape vehicle docked to the station. Currently, that's SpaceX Crew Dragon Endeavour that Crew 11 arrived on. It's their lifeboat, their way home, their insurance policy. NASA and international partners have run incredible tests to expand space machine capabilities. They've beamed a holographic doctor to the ISS. They've used remote-operated robotic arms to simulate surgery in microgravity. The technology exists. But here's the limitation. You can have all the equipment in the world, all the training, all the remote support, and still not have what you need for a complete medical workup. So NASA made the call. All 4 members of Crew 11 will return together. Now, you might be wondering, why bring everyone back? Why not just evacuate the sick astronaut? Well, it comes down to logistics and cost. Sending a Crew Dragon to the ISS costs tens of millions of dollars per seat. The mission was already scheduled to end in early February. Bringing one person home now and then launching another Dragon in 3 weeks to retrieve the other 3. That's burning money for no real gain. Plus, after 5 months in space, Crew 11 has likely accomplished most of their mission objectives anyway. When they leave, 3 people will remain aboard the ISS. NASA's Christopher Williams and Russian cosmonauts Sergei Kudshverchkov and Sergei Mikhaev, part of the MS-28 crew. They'll keep the station running until Crew 12 arrives, hopefully ahead of the original February 15th launch date. And through all of this, one thing is crystal clear. As NASA Associate Administrator Amit Kshatriya put it, crew safety always remains our highest priority. We never take shortcuts. We never compromise when it comes to protecting our astronauts. This evacuation proves something important. Space travel is safer than it's ever been, but it's still incredibly risky. Which brings us to the uncomfortable question everyone's thinking about. We're planning missions to the moon. We're talking about Mars, permanent bases, long-duration exploration. But here's the reality. From the ISS, you can be home in 24 hours if something goes wrong. But from the moon, days. From Mars, it will take months, maybe 6 months, maybe longer depending on orbital mechanics. There's no emergency evacuation from Mars. There's no calling for backup. Medical autonomy will be absolutely critical. The crew will need to be able to diagnose and treat almost anything. Because Earth won't be an option. This Crew 11 evacuation, it's a reminder, a wake-up call. We've made incredible progress, but we're not invincible. So knowing that something can go medically wrong in space and there's a limit to what can be done up there, do you still think astronauts should risk their lives and go? Drop your answer in the comments below. And if this video opened your eyes to just how incredible and terrifying space exploration really is, do me a favor. Hit that like button. Subscribe for more deep dives into space.